Getting a little bit of glare on here, so that helped a little bit. All right. So thanks everybody for joining me this morning. Clean my glasses here real quick so I can see. But we'll wait for a few more people to get rounded up in here. We'll go ahead and get started. So there was one person yesterday that I skipped their question. I didn't mean to. So I'm going to start with that one. Carl M. And hopefully Carl M. will get to see this. I noticed he had asked this question, after I got done, after I turned it off, and then I went back and I saw that he asked the question earlier, and for some reason I skipped it, and I didn't mean to. Just every now and then, I'm human. Every now and then I'll skip a question, not on purpose. You'll just have to, if you notice that I skip your question, again, I never do it on purpose. Just repost it in there, and hopefully I'll get to it. As it comes along. All right. Still rounding up some people in here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, I'm going to start with Carl M. So Carl M said, club head speed as affected by grip pressure. So that's a great question. A lot of you probably saw kind of the viral video of Shane Lowry about how his pinky he has a overlap kind of grip, and his pinky kind of comes off, and he also has trigger fingers kind of off the club as well. So he's not putting a lot of pressure into that club with the lead hand. You got to be putting force into the handle to be able to hold on to it. I've heard a lot of people say, "Hey, you got to hold this club like a baby bird." Well, that's not going to work at impact. As you're going up to the top, that's nice. The speed is really, really low. We can put a very little pressure into the club to be able to still control it. But at impact, as the speed is gathering and raising up, you've got to put force in this handle in order to hold on to it. So imagine if you were to take this club, hold it like a tube of toothpaste. You're trying not to squeeze out any toothpaste, and you were just to fling this as hard as you could. You're probably going to toss it. You're not going to, either that or you're going to slow yourself down in order to be able to hold on to it. So we got to be able to put force into this handle. You talk about long drive guys, they are putting a lot of force into this handle and a lot of pressure into it to be able to hold on to it at the speeds at which they're swinging it. So as you notice here, I'm gesturing a lot to my lead hand. I'm right-handed, so my left hand's my lead hand. I'm gesturing a lot to this hand. This is where you're putting as much pressure as you possibly can. So I'm also kind of in the school of thought that essentially, if you're someone who maybe has a very weak grip, and this is just something you're going to have to test, hasn't been something that I've really gotten into, but there's been actually, a huge debate in the golf instruction area, with scientists like Sasha McKenzie and things like that, biomechanics experts. They're saying, the trail hand can actually slow down the club. There's negative pressure being put into the club kind of in this direction, meaning they're coming into impact and they're seeing pressure going into this part of the hands, the outside part, which would be slowing down the club, right? So, and they're talking about how the right hand, the trail hand, actually slows down the club if you are trying to push it through because it can't keep up. So if you think about, the longer this part of the club is moving faster than where my hands are, right? So this part of the club here would be moving faster than it is here. So technically, if you're swinging correctly with correct mechanics, this trail hand wouldn't be able to keep up if this lead hand is going as fast as it can go. So that's why you hear a lot of, keep the, pressure in your trail hand really, really low. But I kind of think about that, and that can't be the same for everybody, right? I think that for some people who maybe even aren't swinging mechanically correctly, but still want to be able to swing fast, and also maybe have some weak grip pressure, not very, very strong hands or things like that, you may need all the pressure and force that you can get to put into the grip, and basically use this as to add as to work as one unit. to be able to swing that club as hard as you can. So it's all about, there's an easy way that you can test that for yourself, and that would be to use some sort of swing speed measuring device, such as a swing caddy or a swing speed radar or a ZEP or blast motion, whatever you got, and test, see what the difference is. See if you do some swings where you feel like you are putting as little pressure as you possibly can, preferably basically no pressure into this grip with that lead hand. Basically, you just want to feel like it's just kind of helping the club go into position, and you're putting all the force with your lead hand. You could test that versus feeling like you're really trying to help this club through there with your trail hand, and putting pressure with that trail hand in there as well to give you the maximum amount of total pressure that you can put into the grip. Test out, see which one works the best for you. Go to the extreme with it. Go where you're putting as little as you possibly can to really putting as much force as you possibly can, and then somewhere in between, and see the kind of numbers that you're getting. But I will say, if you are swinging correctly mechanically and you're putting as much force as you possibly can, and this is moving as fast as it possibly can, then that trail hand, I believe, in my opinion, and again, this is a debate among a lot of golf instructors in the world, that trail hand will slow you down if you try to put pressure in it. But if you're someone who's in a situation where maybe you don't have the best swing mechanics, but you still want to have lots of club head speed, and maybe you have maybe a weakish kind of grip, you're not a real big strong guy, but you're trying to get as much distance as you can. Ladies, the same thing. Upper body strength is typically lower in females, and may be better for you to kind of feel more pressure. It's just something that you're going to have to test. So get yourself a club head speed measuring device and test that out. Hopefully, Carl, that helps you. I know it's not a definitive answer, but it's more, it's because everybody's a little bit different. Not everyone's going to have the same swing mechanics. If there's a tour player that has really good swing mechanics, most likely they're like a Shane Lowry, for example, it's going to be more beneficial to feel like very little pressure in that trail hand in most situations. But if you're someone who maybe doesn't have the best swing mechanics, it could be the other way around. So let's move on to the next one here. So Scott K says, my swing has gotten worse since starting. Last 2 times out, opened great, then literally fell apart. So so it sounds like it's not a complete, you're starting out great. So it sounds like there's something that breaks down somewhere. It's hard to say exactly what's going on there. We do have an unlimited swing review program. I'd love to work with you, Scott. I don't have spots available right now. Sign up for my waiting list. If you want to check out the unlimited swing review program, click on that link at the top of the screen there. You can click get a review, or you can click, there's another link up there. It'll take you to another page, and you can read about basically what it's all about. There's an example review in there, so you can kind of see what it's all about. But I highly recommend working with an instructor. It's hard for me to know, just even based on, you said your swing has gotten worse. That could be a million things. There's endless possibilities that could be going on there. I wish I could just help right here, right now, but there just isn't. I don't have enough information, and I don't see your swing. So in order for me to really break it down for you, you'll want to sign up for the unlimited swing review program. And that way I can check out your swing, get more information with you, work with you one-on-one. And I believe Robin may have some spots available. But again, I get spots open up every now and then. So join my waiting list, and I can take you on whenever, I get some spots available. I think I have a few people on my waiting list right now. So go ahead and join that, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. So Jacquez B says, I have improved my ball striking considerably since becoming a member and shooting much lower scores, breaking 80 every 3 games now. My irons are solid, 7 irons approaching the 170s on a warm day, but my driver speed seems to suck. Okay. In fact, the swing speed radar, I'm getting almost the same speed as my 5 iron. What is causing this? So again, hard to say exactly what's going on there, but I would recommend working through our 20-minute distance fix course. That's going to get you doing all of the things that we have found that to give people club head speed. So the main thing there is getting a bigger range of motion, big shoulder turn. Maybe you're getting a big shoulder turn with your 5-iron, but you're not with your driver. Maybe with your 5-iron, you're taking a more aggressive swing and you're swinging hard, or with your 5-iron, and then with your driver, maybe you're trying to baby it and guide it, and you're not getting the club head speed. There's all kinds of things that could be going on there. Maybe you're casting the driver, but you're not the 5-iron. So there's all kinds of things. Work through that 20-minute distance fix course, and that one's going to be all about gaining club head speed. And the good part about it is, it's not just going to be for your driver. You're going to raise it trickles down all the way down. This is a common question that we get. Does this work for irons as well? Well, of course, if you're raising your normal playing speed with your driver, that's also going to raise your other club head speeds as well. It's going to raise up across the board. It's not like you're going to go from, gain 20 miles per hour with your driver and you're going to stay the same with all your irons. You're going to raise up with your irons and whatnot as well. So work through that program, 3 weeks to get to that program. It's very, very easy. You can either go to the homepage, which by going to the homepage, you just got to click the house icon. It should be the first course there. When you go to course progress, when you scroll down, it should be the first course there, 20-minute distance fix. Get started on there. A lot of great material in there. 20 minutes a few times a week. It is really all it takes, and you'll be raising your club head speed. 3-week program. Then the other way to get to the program is you just go to the instruction tab, hover your mouse over it, expand the menu, and they'll be at the top of the very first one there, 20-minute distance fix. Get going in there and start raising your club head speed. So Mark T says, I keep hitting near the heel of the club. How can I fix this? So first of all, the easiest way to fix many of things in golf is just to exaggerate the opposite, right? So if you're hitting the ball on the heel, the easiest thing for you to do is to try to hit it off the toe. And I don't mean line the ball up on the toe, because that can actually have a negative effect, because subconsciously many times, if I line the ball up on the toe, so let me go ahead and angle this down a little bit. I see this quite often where I get somebody who says, I'm hitting it off the heel, and I'm still hitting it off the heel, even though I'm lining it up on the toe. So just because you're lining it up off the toe doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen at impact. It only matters what's going on at impact. In fact, many times, and they've done some studies on this, you actually, when you line it up on the toe, many times you hit it on the heel even worse, because subconsciously, I've got to get to this golf ball, and you overdo it. So you're better off lining it up as you normally do. Now, if you normally line it up on the toe, that's completely fine if that's what you're used to. If you normally line it up on the heel, that's fine. That's what you're used to. And an important note about that is they actually found that a lot of times if you are struggling hitting it off the heel, lining it up on the heel can help you. But I still don't really advocate that. The reason for that is it's kind of the opposite effect, right? So that in order to hit this ball solid, you've got to bring your hands in more, and you basically have to adjust your feeling to make that happen. So it kind of forces you to do that. But I like to do something that you're going to be able to do all the time, and you're not changing how you're lining up to the ball. That's staying constant, but what you're doing is you're adjusting your feel in the downswing. You can do that. That's completely fine. Lining it up on the heel if you are struggling hitting off the heel. It can work for you, and a lot of times they do find that people had a more instant effect. But I think over time, it does. You're going to continue. You're going to adapt. So I would rather you just line it up as you normally would, wherever that is. Most of the people, it's center of the club face. And if you are typically hitting it off the heel, then I want you to come down and intentionally try to feel like you're coming in and doing this, hitting it way off the toe. So that's adjusting your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So if you actually hit it off the toe, then what you can do at that point is just ease off of that feeling a little bit. If you still hit it off the heel, then exaggerate it even more. You may even need to feel like you're coming in and missing the golf ball. You may need to feel like you need to come in and feel like you're coming in like this, like you're coming in and you're missing the golf ball to the inside. Exaggerate it as much as you have to. Most likely what's going to happen is it's just going to move it. You're going to get a strike that's closer to the center of the club face. That's usually what's going to happen there. Now, as far as technique is concerned, what are some things that I see in swings that usually cause these heel strikes? So number one is going to be the hips moving toward the golf ball. You get that hip thrust motion instead of the hip rotation motion. So the reason why you see that, so if you watch right here, you get coming down and you see this action where it's kind of the hip thrust. Your hips are just moving toward the golf ball instead of the hip turn where you're turning your hips into impact. The reason why that causes heel strikes is because it takes away space for your hands to move through and get to the golf ball, which moves the hosel toward the golf ball. So you need to get to where you're opening up, and now you have that space to move the club in from the inside. The other issue that I see that often causes heel strikes is a club path that's way too much from the inside. So if you look at your club head from down the line and you see that it's way inside the hands, first of all, you have to make sure that your camera angle is good. You got to be far away enough. This camera angle right here, it's too close and it's too high. And ideally, you want to be pretty close to down the toe line here. So you want to back up enough so that the club, and everything it stays in the frame throughout the entire video. You want to be so close that your club goes out of the frame. You see we're too close here. I don't have enough space to get the right perspective on this. But if you get that right perspective down the toe line, far away enough, and you look in the downswing, you see this club is working from the inside of the hands. So by inside of the hands, I mean on this side of the hands. That would be outside of the hands. This would be inside the hands. This would be in line with the hands, right? In line with the hands. So if you see that it's working from the inside of the hands, this can also make you more susceptible to heel strikes. The reason for it is because that club is moving side to side. It's moving out to the right. So instead, if it's in line with your hands, then that club is moving through squarely through impact. The path is moving through squarely. It's coming in right in line with your target. Whereas if you're swinging from in to out, it's kind of moving that way through the target, and it becomes very timing based if you're going to get that strike on the center of the face. You want to get, basically you have a tendency to hit it off the heel or even have the S word coming out. So that would be another thing. So working on maybe even feeling like you're swinging over the top, again, this is adjusting your feel to get the desired result that you want. So feeling like you're swinging more over the top with a toe strike on top of that feeling may help you as well. But you got to look on camera, see what's going on there, see what the issue is. You can't just, take what I told you here and just start going swinging over the top, because that may make things way, way worse. Look on camera and see. You got to film your swing and see what's going on there. See if it's the hips moving toward the target. If it's the hips moving toward the target, there's all kinds of reasons why that might be happening. But I would just try to feel like you're coming down and the hips kind of pushing back and out of the way, and try to feel like you're clearing space for the hands to work from the inside. So again, two basically opposite issues there. One is usually already an over the top kind of swing, and the other is, too much from the inside type of swing. So you just have to look on camera, see what's going on, and go from there. Take what I told you, but instantly, without even looking at your swing on camera, the first thing that you can do is adjust your feeling to get the desired result, and that's going to be striking it more toward the toe if you're trying to fix heel strikes. All right. Okay. So Deborah C says, can you explain what it means to shallow out the club? Does the spine angle change to accomplish this? So that's a great question, Deborah. So shallowing out the club, what we mean by that, and typically what we mean by that, when you hear instructors talking about that all the time, there's all kinds of places in the swing where things are shallowing or things of that nature. But typically when you hear that, instructors are talking about, or someone is talking about the club shallowing out. So this would be steep, this would be shallow. Okay, so the butt end of the club in the downswing, right? So if you're looking at the downswing, this would be shallowing out the club. This would be coming out down steep. This is shallowing. So typically, if you're looking from down the line, and again, make sure you have your down the line view correct in order for this to be the most accurate it can be. You want to look from down the line and pause your swing about this point when that lead arm is parallel to the ground, and use a swing analyzation app or something software to take a look at this. I recommend V1 Golf. We used to recommend Huddle Technique, but they're doing something different now, and they're not allowing people to sign up for it unless they have a coach. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to give you so that you can sign up for it. So the only thing we recommend at this time is V1 Golf. I think there's a bunch of other swing apps out there that are probably pretty good too. I just haven't used them. We use V1 Golf. That's what we use for unlimited swing reviews. If you're planning on doing unlimited swing reviews at any time, I highly recommend using the V1 Golf app. It's probably the most popular one out there, I would imagine. I think it works really, really well once you get the hang of it. So draw a line, video your swing and draw that line on there. And the line going out of the bottom of the club here. So right along the shaft here, draw a line and see where that line is pointing. And ideally, you'd want that to be pointing a little bit outside of the golf ball. So if we're looking from down the line here, so if I show you, if I bring this club up and I'm right here, ideally I would have this butt end of the club pointing outside of the golf ball. Outside of the golf ball would be anywhere out here. So anywhere, within right at the golf ball to, a foot or so outside of the golf ball, that's a good place to be. If you are coming down and you see this club is coming down and it's pointing way inside the golf ball or anywhere inside the golf ball, that's considered to be steep. And what happens when you are steep is you're typically, especially if you're a good player, to get this club to come back down on plane, a lot of times we'll stand up to get that club to shallow out late. And then what happens is we flip. When we're standing up, we're flipping at the golf ball because our hands and our body are moving away from the golf ball. So to be able to stay in our posture and be able to stay down and cover the ball, you probably heard that a lot, covering the ball, get forward shaft lane and compression on the golf ball. This club's got to be nice and shallowed out so that it's already on plane and you can stay in posture. It's fairly rare, but you can over shallow the club. I've seen this before. People get obsessed with the shallowing and that's all they do. And they get to where the club's like this. Well, this can actually hurt you if you're in this position. It's fairly rare, but I have seen it. If you're in this position a lot, you got to make a compensation to get this club to come back down plane. And a lot of times what you do is you'll stand up to make that happen too. So having this club somewhere in the neighborhood of the golf ball, so a little bit outside of the golf ball, at the golf ball, a little outside, that's going to be the ideal place that's going to allow you to stay in your posture as you're coming through. So, and to learn and to work through doing that, that's going to be the move course. To get to the move course, click the house icon, scroll down, click the move. The move, that's what the move is. It's shallowing out the club, squaring the face earlier so that you can get forward shaft lane and compression at impact. Now, as far as spine angles are concerned, do you have to change your spine angles? I'm not sure. It depends on where your spine angles are currently at. But I will tell you, if your spine is leaning toward the target, meaning at the top of the swing, you're kind of like this, it's going to be hard to get this club to shallow out because you're going to have to make some compensation. So ideally, you'd be nice and angled away at the top. So nice and angled away at address. So that's 6 to 8 degrees, somewhere in there, like we talked about on the website. And then at the top of the swing, here I'm at the top, again, 6 to 8 degrees angled away. And then I'm coming into impact. I want to be 18, 25 degrees angled away, center of the shoulders, center of the hips when you're looking at that on camera. And again, you got to look at your swing on camera to see what's going on. But 6 to 8 degrees angled away, that's going to be a good place to be. Stable up to the top. If you're leaning toward the target at the top of the swing, it's going to be difficult. If you are overdoing the spine tilt, meaning, and I've seen this a little bit too, where you're coming in and you're too much angled away. You're kind of in this forward tilt too much. It's going to be easier to shallow out the club, but you're going to kind of end up flipping to compensate for that. So make sure that you're actually, when you are and this is a whole nother discussion essentially, but when you are turning up the top, you are actually extending your back a little bit. So to stay kind of in this stable position, as I'm going up to the top, I'm actually doing this a little bit, but I'm rotating and I'm bending into my side. And that's how I'm staying in that stable position. I'm actually, if you take away the side bend out of there, I'm actually doing this a little bit. I'm going to show you, I'm going like that just a little bit. Now, if you're going like this a lot, that's going to be, you're going to end up with the side bend and too much. So it's just a little bit to stay kind of in your posture there. But if I stay in this kind of forward tilt position, as I'm going back, I'm going to end up like that. And that's too much. So you want to make sure you're doing a little bit of back extension there as you're going up. So that's probably a little bit too much detail, but that's essentially what's going on there to stay kind of nice and stable as you're going up to the top. All right. And all the spine angle stuff, that's all in the Stable Fluid Spine course. Again, that's one of the first pieces. It's the number one key to consistency in the golf swing. So I highly recommend checking that out. All right. So Bob L says, I've been told by a pro that the reason I don't get shaft lean is my arms are too slow. I've been trying to speed up the arms and shoulders, and it helps. What do you think? Well, Bob, unfortunately, it's impossible for me to say what's going on there. It's not really something I've heard, the arms being too slow. So I'm not really sure exactly. I'd really have to see what's going on there. Again, Element Swing Reviews, I can see what's going on there. I can tell you the things that I see most often that cause the lack of forward shaft lean. We were just talking about it a minute ago, the move. If you are coming down steep in the downswing, this is one of the number one things, is I see steep in the downswing. So if you are steep right here, you're going to typically stand up to get that club to come back down on plane, and then you're going to flip no forward shaft lean through impact. So that's one that I see. Another one that I see is the inability to square the club face properly when you have forward shaft lean. So a lot of people, they might shallow out the club, but they're still used to squaring the club face like this. So what we have to do is we got to turn that handle down. So let me show you what happens when you push. If I were to take, when you see people that don't have forward shaft lean, this is usually the kind of wrist positions that you see. If you look at my lead wrist, I've got some cupping here. It's kind of broken down. If you look at my trail wrist, it's pretty flat. So if I keep those wrist angles and I just push the handle forward, look what happens to my face. It's wide open. So nobody wants to hit a ball with the club face wide open. So what do? They get that breakdown and they square the club face that way. So what we have to do is we're coming in with that open club face and forward shaft lean. We've got to turn that handle to where it's squared up. So now look at what that means from this angle. If I have, here's my broken down angle. If I push the handle forward and I have a flat left wrist, see, I'm still open. Watch what happens when I turn the handle down. So now you can see my trail wrist is bent back and my lead wrist has some bow in it, or it's even a little bit flat. It just depends on your strength of your grip, and by strength, I mean, this would be, I'm not talking about the pressure that you force you're putting into the grip. I'm talking about that's a strong grip and that's a weak grip with your lead hand. So if you have a very weak grip, you're going to have appearance to square the club face with forward shaft lean. You're going to have appearance of more bow in that lead wrist. If you have a very, very strong grip, so that would be a very strong grip. The grip is more on the trail side of the club with the lead hand. As I'm coming into impact, I may actually appear to have some cupping in my wrist when I have forward shaft lean in a square club face. So it's really about having forward shaft lean in a square club face. That's the most important thing. So make sure that that's what's going on there. But that's the two big things that I see. The other thing is casting. It's very, very rare to find somebody who's casting the club and still getting forward shaft lean on impact. I actually saw a case recently and thought it was very interesting, but it's very, very rare. I don't see it very, very often. But if you are casting the club, most likely you have little to no chance of getting forward shaft lean impact. Usually you're going to flip the club. You can't stop the momentum coming through there. So That's another piece there. So those are kind of the main pieces. Part of that is stemmed from improper sequencing, which is swinging all arms, which it sounds like if you have really slow arms, that's what your tour or your not tour, but your club pro is telling you. Maybe that's not what's happening with you. Again, it's impossible for me to say without seeing your swing. But yeah, if you want to shoot me over your swing, join my waiting list for unlimited swing reviews, and I'll let you know as soon as I have a spot available when I can take a look. But unfortunately, there just isn't a way. I wish there was a way for me to just know exactly what was going on with your swing. But I will tell you that that's not something that I've really heard before, that the arms are moving too slow. Because usually forward shaft lean is due to the arms being too fast and the lower body not being in sync and not using the lower body to create momentum. It's usually from basically being all upper body. So that would mean that the upper body is moving too fast. But again, maybe something else is going on with your swing that I would just have to see to be able to know for sure. All right, so Rod P says, what part of the club head makes contact with that part of the ball and in what direction to create compression? So typically, which it really kind of depends on the lie, the dead center of the club face is going to be the best place to strike the ball for maximum distance. So if you're talking the club, you're looking at the dead center of the club face, that's probably going to be about right there, right? So that's going to be the best place to strike the ball for maximum distance. But sometimes it's not really possible to strike the ball there because the ball is in the fairway, it's laying down. You're going to get, a lot of times in order to get ball first contact, you really can't hit there. So if you look at, go search like Tiger Woods' wear spot or, wear spot on irons or things like that. You're typically going to see that on the bottom grooves here. And the reason is because usually the ball is sitting, if you're in the fairway, the ball is kind of sitting down there. And also, even if it's in the rough and the ball's sitting up, you still want to hit it there because if you hit it higher on the face, most likely what's going to happen is that club's going to come in and it's going to gather, it's going to get grass on the face, it's going to get moisture on the face, and it's going to be a little bit more unpredictable. The ball can slip on the face and you won't get the spin, and you'll get, if you ever heard a flyer lie, that's basically what that means. A flyer lie means that the ball's kind of sitting up and you can just absolutely launch it from there. And that's not what you want to do when you're trying to control your distance, right? So if you ever watch tour players on TV, they get that flyer lie and they see the ball. A lot of times you just know they'll be hitting out of the rough and they'll just smoke it. They'll launch it out of there, and instantly they know that's going to be way over the green because they caught it higher on the face, more dead center in the what we consider the sweet spot, and that thing just launched. Now, if you're someone who's always looking for distance, struggling with distance, trying to get that more in the center of the face, try hitting a. Just keep in mind that if you have a lie where that ball's sitting up and you can do that, you're going to get probably a little bit more distance than what you're used to. But typically, what you're going to see is those bottom few grooves. Now, to create compression, you're compressing the ball no matter how, unless you just miss it. You're hitting the ball. It's compressing. So to get maximum compression, that's about de-lofting the face and hitting it in the sweet spot. That's how you get the maximum amount of compression. But if you hit it out on the toe with tons of loft, the ball's still going to compress. It's just about having maximum compression. I hope that kind of makes sense. The ball is always going to compress on the face. It's just a matter of getting the maximum amount of compression, and that comes from less loft and more efficient center strike on the golf ball. So hopefully that makes sense, Rod. And if you have any further questions, you'll go ahead and post them on there. I'll be happy to help. So Kim F says, your program is solid. My TrackMan numbers are extremely good. My only glitch is my lack of hip turn only when I'm in competition. I go to Bam Bam mode and my hips stop turning. Should I continue to drill coming down into compression line, ensuring my right heel continues to lift up in the trend with my right knee, my left hip, so that there is no hip stall? So yeah, I mean, get more comfortable with getting your hips through impact. You know, if that's what's going on there, and keep in mind that when you get in competition mode, it might be something that you have to put more focus into. That Kim, I think you were on here yesterday, and I was kind of talking about this a little bit. So not sure if you were here to see it, but essentially, when we get into competition mode, or when we go out and play with our buddies, it's different than hitting balls out on the driving range or just hitting ball after ball on TrackMan. It's completely different, because when you're hitting balls on the driving range, you are completely focused on what you're doing. Most likely, anyway, you're completely focused on what you're doing. There's no outside distractions, essentially, of what's going on. There's no a lot of times people are just hitting into oblivion. They're not necessarily hitting at a target. They're just kind of hitting into oblivion, and there's no, it doesn't matter if the ball goes right or left. It's no pressure. There's no outside anything, and a lot of times people are hitting the same club over and over and over again and getting into basically a groove out on the range. But when you're out on the course, especially when you're in competition where there's some added pressure, there's consequence to what's going on. What if I do this? What if I do that? What, all these things, those distractions, they take away from the focus on what you're doing. And that's why, especially if it's not something that's completely automatic and that you're not comfortable with yet 100%, you're going to revert back to what's more natural tendency, which it sounds like for you is stalling the hips and throwing the arms in front. So yes, continue, get 100% comfortable with it so that it will hold up in competition, because you don't want to be focusing on every little thing, because there's going to be some focus that's being taken away because you're in competition. There's pressure there. So highly recommend, yes, keep working on that. Make it second nature so that you don't have to think about it, so that it holds up in competition. But realize right now, when you're in competition, that's going to be a focus that you're going to need to think about when you're out there playing to get the best results. If you're getting really, really good results when you're doing a certain thing, and then when you get in competition, that focus is taken away from that and you stop doing it, you're going to need to force yourself to do that. And hopefully that helps you and get you to where you start playing better in competition. All right, so Charles F. says, can you comment on the board to measure foot pressure? Where would you be able to use one? So you're talking about a Swing Catalyst, or I can't remember all the names of a Body Track. So basically, the places where you'd be able to use one, I just call around to basically club pros around, see if they have one that you can use. Basically what it does is it measures the foot pressure that you're putting into it. So it's got a bunch of sensors in it, and it measures the pressure that you're putting into it with your feet. It can tell you some things about your golf swing, what's going on. They are pretty expensive for what it is. I know that the Body Track ones are a little bit less expensive, but the Swing Catalyst ones I think are very expensive, and those are the ones that are probably the best ones. So a lot of people don't invest in them. We don't have one. We've thought about getting one, but we don't have one. It's not as good of an investment, I think, as opposed to, like a Swing Speed radar or, a launch monitor of some sort that's going to you're going to be able to use all the time. But, for us, we're certified. There is some certification you can do for free through Swing Catalyst website if you want to learn more about it. I believe it's just swingcatalyst.com. You can go check it out. But yeah, I would, any place where they teach golf, there's a chance that they might have one. So I would just kind of look around. I believe you might be able to search, if you go to Swing Catalyst website or Body Track's website, you might be able to search for certified instructors in your area. Odds are they might have one if they're a certified instructor in it. So hopefully you can go search that, and that would be where I would go. But just looking around your area, country clubs or wherever that have a club pro there, there's a chance that they might have one if you wanted to get on one anyway. All right. All right. So Raymond M says, played a tournament this past weekend and shot decent on the front nine, but blew up on 10 through 13. Played them 11-0. My problem was a snap hook off the tee that got me into the trees with no shot. Holes 14 through 18, I played 3 over. What can I do to not prevent having so many bad holes in a row? I'm playing at 18.1 currently. So Raymond, you're not alone, buddy. Everybody's has stretches of bad holes where things kind of get out of sync. So the key here is to be able to adjust what's going on. If you get a couple snap hooks in a row, you get one snap hook in a row. The snap hook is just caused by the face being closed to the path. So if you hit a snap hook, I would actually on the next one try to hit a cut, trying to hit basically a slice, because that's the opposite of what's going on there. So if you're hitting a snap hook, usually it's from this path moving too much into out with the face being closed to the path as you're coming through there. So what would be the opposite of this? The opposite of that would be trying to feel like you're kind of swinging more over the top with a face that is open as you're coming through there. So I would just try to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. The best way, the ball striking masterclass is a really good way to learn how to kind of control those things and be able to adjust your feeling. That's what we do in that course. Sorry, I've had to sneeze like the whole time and it just won't happen. But that's going to be a really good course to help you work through that. Again, we're going to be offering that this week. So if you haven't done the ball striking masterclass and you would like to, and like I said, it's going to be really good for what Raymond just talked about, reducing damage, basically making your misses smaller. We're all going to have misses. Tour players have misses. I mean, I hope you watched the Open Championship this past weekend and saw those guys were in the weeds. They were all over the place. Everyone has misses. It's not just regular old amateurs. It's tour players, club pros. Everybody does. It's a matter of, can you make those misses smaller and less frequent? And that's what you're trying to do. And the ball striking masterclass is really going to help you to do that, because it's going to help you improve your awareness of what you're doing with this club. It's going to help you to be able to hit draws and fades. And if you know how to do that, then when you hit one that you're trying to hit straight and it actually ends up being a fade, then you can adjust your feel to feeling like a little bit more of a draw swing next time to get that more of a straighter shot. So I highly recommend going through that ball striking masterclass course. Again, we're going to be offering it this week. Be on the lookout in your email for an opportunity to enroll. We only take a limited number of people. I believe we're taking 150 people. We've already sold some spots for it for people that are on the waiting list. So hopefully when it gets to you, you'll get an opportunity to sign up. It does include a Facebook group where you can post your swing. A lot of the stuff that you guys asked me, I wish I could help you, more, but unfortunately there isn't a way for me to do that a lot of times without seeing your swing. So the Facebook group gives you an opportunity to be able to post your swing so that I can take a look at it and tell you exactly what you need to do. So it's a great program. I guarantee that you'll improve your ball striking. If you stick with it and go through and do all the drills, you will improve and lower your handicap. It's guaranteed, or we will get your money back. If you go through the program and you tell us, hey, I got worse, you go through the prior program, you do all the drills, and you come to us and say, hey, I got worse, here's your money back. That's basically how it'll work. So you really don't have anything to lose. It's the best program. We're that confident that you will improve, because everyone that's gone through it, every single person that's gone through it has improved it, who's actually stuck with it. Now, if you go through the first 3 weeks and then quit and say, hey, it's not working for me, no, you got to keep, 3 weeks is not enough time it's a 90-day program. You got to keep on going, nail all the drills, because not everything's going to be better for everyone. We haven't gone through everything in that first three weeks. So go through the program, and I guarantee you will start hitting the ball better. All right. So Patrick C says, I tried all the videos to help stop casting from the top, but I've done it for so long, I can't seem to get past it. But the last week I found something that's helping. I swing back to left arm parallel, and then I feel like I'm pulling the boat, the butt of the club. For some reason, it censors butt. I don't know why, but it censors all sorts of stuff on here. So the butt end of the club to the target irons, and now my driver, I feel like pulling the butt end of the club right to the target. Is that a bad thing? Patrick, a lot of golf is just what you feel to get the desired result that you want. So if you feel something, if you feel a certain thing, and you're seeing on camera that it's what you're trying to achieve, and you're getting the good results, who am I to tell you that it's a bad thing? A lot of people have different things. You talked about, I remember Sergio, when, that year that he won the Masters, he was talking about how he yanks the chain. That's his feeling, is he yanks the chain. Well, for a lot of people, that probably isn't a good feeling. A lot of people, the club's just going to come down steep when people try to feel that way. But for Sergio Garcia, that felt like a really great feeling for him, because he shallows out the club a ton already, and that's what helped him. So whatever feeling you need to have, that gives you the desired results that you want, then that's a good feeling to have. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's not everybody's a little bit different. So think about it this way: if there was one lag drill that worked for everybody, one feeling that worked for everyone, then we would only have one lag video on the website, and everybody would just do that. But everyone is different, so we have tons of different lag videos to try to find the right feeling and things that work for you. I work with students a lot of times, and we'll be working on lag, and I always tell them, say, hey, work on this for a little bit. If it's not working, then it's not for you. It sucks. Let's move on to another feeling and see if we can get that one working. I have ones that typically work, with students, and I always try to work those first. But everyone's a little bit different and has different feelings. It sounds like you're, those typical ones, they probably didn't work real well for you, and you found something that works right for you, and you're getting good results. So absolutely nothing wrong with that. So keep on doing what you're doing. Once you find something that's really working for you, keep working through it so that it becomes second nature to you, and that's, so that it becomes automatic and you don't have to think about it, and you get it all the time in the future. So let me get a drink real quick. So Paul Z says, please demonstrate a wide takeaway. Why is it important? So a wide takeaway is basically where you're not setting the wrists right away in the backswing. So this would be not a wide takeaway, and this would be a wide takeaway. So you see how my shoulders move a lot more? The reason why a wide takeaway is important as opposed to narrow takeaway, which would be this. If you watch here, this club is parallel to the ground. Look how much I've moved my shoulders. I've only moved them a few degrees. Now, if I get my club parallel to the ground with a wide takeaway, there's parallel to the ground. Look how much more my shoulders have turned. So I find a lot of times the people that just pick the club up and do not get a wide takeaway don't turn their shoulders enough all the way in the backswing. They end up with a shoulder turn that's kind of like this. That's a lot of times what you see. But people who have a nice wide takeaway end up with a shoulder turn that's more like that, a much bigger shoulder turn. So that's why it's important. We talk about this in the power turn section. It's I think it's the second video in the power turn section, the wide takeaway. There's a wide takeaway drill in there. So that's why that's important and why I would recommend it. All right, so James M says, is hitting the top of the ball by not turning your hips or over the top? Is hitting the top of the ball by not turning your hips or over the top? So you're topping the ball, and you're asking if it's from not turning your hips or over the top. It's most likely from not having a good weight shift. Usually a top is due to topping the ball is a product of, let me put the ball here on the ground. Topping and chunking are usually a product of the same thing, and that's your low point happening before the golf ball. And what I mean by that is your club, as it's swinging, it's coming down, it's reaching a low point, and then it's on its way up. So what happens in the golf swing is the same thing. That club comes down, it reaches a low point, and then it's on its way up. So with a top or a chunk, that's basically the same thing, is that the low point happens before the golf ball. So you're coming in, and that low point happens before the golf ball. And on a chunk, it just means that you're hitting the ground. But on a top shot, it usually means that you're missing the ground, and then the club's on its way up into the ball, and then it hits the top of the ball. So that's usually the case, and that's usually from hanging back in the swing and not getting to your lead side. So I recommend working on what's called the step drill. Go to the stop chunking and topping section and work through that course. To get to that course, click the house icon, scroll down, stop chunking and topping course, work through the drills in that course. There is a course, there is a video in there that has the step drill in it. That's a really good one. It forces you to get your momentum moving to your lead side and get the right feeling for that. So highly recommend moving through that course, but that's most likely what's happening there, and not necessarily a lack of, not getting to your lead side can usually involves not turning your hips, and it also usually involves an over the top. But the over the top and not turning your hips are because you're most likely not getting to your lead side. So that's going to be the root cause of it, most likely. And again, it's hard for me to know without seeing your swing, but take a look at it on camera, see what's going on, see if it looks like you're hanging back. If you're pretty much flat-footed at impact, or you have your trail foot firmly planted in the ground, that heel's not coming off the ground at all, then most likely you're not getting a proper weight shift, and working through that stop chunking and topping course is really going to help you with that. All right. So James Y says, love the course. Awesome. Glad you enjoy it. So James M says that I just answered his question that he did not tilt. So that may not be what's going on, James. Most likely it's because of weight shift for topping for sure. So Stephen N says, ball, the results are about the same for me, but my question is there a spot I should focus on? So you're asking, is there a spot you should focus on with the ball? So as far as I'm concerned with that, I would be focusing on the part of the ball that you're trying to hit. So in most cases, that's going to be the back of the ball. But I'll tell you what I kind of like to feel is when I'm trying to hit a draw, I basically feel like I'm trying to hit the outside of the golf ball. And the reason for that is to hit a draw, you want the face to be close to the path. So I want to feel like my club head's kind of wrapping around the golf ball, and that's going to help me get that draw spin on there. And for a fade, it's the opposite, right? So I focus on maybe a little bit of the inside of the golf ball, and I feel like my club is kind of coming in and cutting inside of the golf ball. That helps me to kind of hit those things. Obviously, you're still pretty much hitting the back of the golf ball, but that will help you to get that working a little bit better. I like to focus on the back of the golf ball. It seems to help the most. So Charles F says, do you have to be on Facebook to do the ball striking masterclass? No, you do not have to be on Facebook. But if you want me to look at your swing, and if you have questions regarding the ball striking masterclass as you go through the course, Facebook's going to be the only place for that other than here. If you have questions about the ball striking masterclass, you can come to office hours and ask those. But if you want me to look at your swing, you have to post it on the Facebook group. That's what it's included on there. If you want me to look at your swing as a part of the ball striking masterclass and you refuse to use Facebook, then you'll need to sign up for my unlimited swinger review program. So on the Facebook group, basically the way that it works is you're going to post your swing on there, and I'm going to say, okay, it looks like this will help your ball striking a little bit if you work on maybe this piece of the Top Speed Golf system or the Never Slice Again course. Maybe you're coming over the top or things like that. I'm going to tell you, hey, go work on the course. I'm going to tell you, hey, go work on this drill. Whereas in a unlimited swing review, you're going to send me a video of your swing, and I'm actually going to give you a voiceover lesson back through the app. I'm going to be drawing lines on there. I'm going to be telling you exactly, pinpointing you, exactly telling you what you need to do. It's a little bit more involved. So, it's a nice way. The Facebook group's a nice way for me to take a look at your swing and push you in the direction that you need to go. But With the Unlimited Swing Review program, basically the difference between that is that I'm guiding you along the way to get you where you need to go. So, and also, questions and things like that get answered, through email. We'll have email correspondence as well. So, unfortunately, if you want somebody to look at your swing and you don't want to use Facebook, you've got to sign up for Swing Reviews to make that happen. All right. So Roy F says, "Hey Q, as I have improved shaft lean with irons, my driver impact is stuck on the bottom of the club face. I had drivers visualizing a low point about 4 inches behind the ball, and impact moved up mid face, like ground contact after the ball with an iron. Do you shift focus with the driver?" So again, I like to focus on the back of the golf ball. What I would be focused, if you're getting low strikes on the club face, I'd be focusing on trying to hit the ball high on the club face. Because what may be happening, may be working against you. If you're focusing on that club bottoming out, so let's say that the golf ball, grab a golf ball here. So let's say you're focusing on this club bottoming out here and moving up into the golf ball. Well, what may be happening is again, adjusting your feel. Feel isn't always real. The reality of what may be going on may not be, what you're feeling. So you may be feeling like you're coming up and it's, center face contact as you're coming in. But the reality of what's probably going on is that club's bottoming out, and then it's on its way up and it's hitting the bottom of the club face. So what I would try to feel like, if you're just trying to get that strike on the higher part of the face, is I'd maybe try to feel like you're hitting up on the ball, but you're hitting up on the ball higher on the face. Now just do some practice swings where you're focusing on that and getting that to work more from the inside. So that's what I would recommend, is just trying to visualize a higher strike on the face. Try to hit the ball literally try to hit the ball off the crown of the club. That's, adjusting your feel. Most likely what's going to happen is that you're not going to do that. Most likely what's going to happen is you're going to hit it dead center in the face. And if you feel uncomfortable with that, just feel like you're hitting it higher on the face and see what happens with there. See if it moves it up a little bit. And then if it doesn't from there, then you may want to think about you're hitting it higher or more on the crown instead of on the club face. And that doesn't mean that's what you're going to do. It means you're adjusting your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So give that a try when you get on there, and that'll help you get that strike more. If you're doing the same thing, it's kind of like the definition of insanity, right? You're visualizing that club bottoming out 4 inches behind the golf ball, and you keep hitting it low on the face. Well, you got to change what you're feeling to change what's going on in impact. So I would change your feeling to trying to just hit it higher on the face and see what kind of results that you get with that, instead of the club bottoming out behind the golf ball, because you're focusing on something that's not happening at impact. You're focusing on something that's happening way back here, and then just taking whatever the result is at impact. Focus on what's happening right here, and usually you'll see a lot better results. All right. So Deborah says, "Thanks, Q. No problem. Glad I could help." She said she's loving the ball striking masterclass. Yeah. So Deborah's in there doing some work in there. So glad to have her in there doing that. Robert C says, "Looking for a good drill tip to get right elbow downward in downswing. My tendency is to throw it out from my torso, then down." So basically what I'd recommend doing is I just recommend doing some drills where you're going up to the top and then halfway down. I would get that elbow. I would try to connect your elbows together, essentially. So feel like you're coming down and you're getting that elbow to get as close to your other elbow as possible, and just exaggerate it. The best thing you can do is exaggerate it as much as you can. If you exaggerate it and you overdo it, then all you have to do is ease off of it. So usually exaggerating it accelerates your progress, and it usually gets you to where you want to be a lot faster. So I would just try to exaggerate this, pause halfway down, then swing all the way through into the full finish. Then do some slow, fluid practice swings where you're exaggerating it, doing the same thing. Take a look on camera. Make sure that you are doing what you think you're doing. And if you're not, then you need to get it on there and exaggerate it even more. Once you see in a practice swing, you get up to full speed with the practice swing, you're comfortable with it, add the golf ball, try to do the same thing. So that's what I recommend doing, and it should help you out quite a bit. All right. So also when I work on getting right elbow more downward, I tend to leave club face open. Any thoughts? Yeah. So that's fairly common. So he's probably shallowing out the club. So he's getting this club to shallow out, and he's able to stay in his posture and get forward shaft lane and impact. And it's like I was talking about earlier. A lot of people struggle with forward shaft lean because they're used to squaring the club face by doing that. No forward shaft lean, and lead wrist is broken down. Trail wrist is pretty straight. So if you have those same wrist angles, and you push the club forward, look what happens to my club face. So I'm here, same wrist angles, and I push my club forward. Look, the club face is wide open. So what do I have to do to square that club face? I got to turn that handle down. So watch what that looks like from this angle. So push forward, turn the handle down. Now my right wrist is bent back. My lead wrist is kind of bowed and turned in this way. So that's what I'd recommend. That's going to be the move course. So 1.2 from the move, that's working on getting that club face squared up by turning that handle down. That's what I'd recommend working on. I would work on that in conjunction with what I was just telling you. So you're working on getting that elbow in. Also, pause at this point and get that club face, exaggerate it. This isn't really what's going to be happening in the swing, but exaggerating it's going to help you feel what you're trying to do. So really, really exaggerate that, then swing all the way through into the full finish. Get up to where you're doing fluid practice swings with it, and that will help you out quite a bit. So we got 3 more questions here. I'll go ahead and answer these real quick, and then we'll jump off here. It's already past 10 a.m. here. So Kevin B says, wall drill for separation. How does that help train my training hip during the swinging club? Folks, when you're posting questions, make sure that you kind of proofread what you're writing, because I can't really make out exactly what Kevin's asking here. But essentially what you're doing with that wall drill is you're trying to fill you're not training your hips at all. You're training the separation between your basically your thoracic spine is what you're training in your obliques. You're trying to feel that stretch in your midsection as you're going through there. So it's not training the hips, it's just training that separation. So that piece. So there's all kinds of pieces of rotation in the swing. There's your hip rotation, there's your rib cage rotation, and then there's the shoulder, pro shoulder and retracting the shoulders. And that's where the shoulder rotation comes from. So you're breaking down each piece. So some drills you're going to work on hip turn only, and then some drills you're going to work on just getting that separation between your hips and your shoulders. And that's what you're working on that drill. So that drill is not training your hips; it's training the separation of your basically your rib cage and your hips. All right. So next question, he says, Mark H, I've been doing the butt against the wall drill for shoulder turn. He looks like he's doing the same drill. It works amazing for me. Do you suggest also going the other direction to work both sides? Yes. You want both of them. You need it this way and you need it that way. So yes, work on both of them as you're coming through there. So Dennis W says, and this will be the last question for the day, says, if I tee the ball high for the drive, I can occasionally pop it up. Why do I sometimes hit the ball well with a high tee set up and other swings under the ball? I should be teeing the ball lower all the time. So again, Dennis, unfortunately, it's hard for me to say without seeing your swing, but I would imagine you're hitting more down on the ball instead of up on the golf ball. I would check your compression line, and by compression line, that's one of the pieces of the Top Speed Golf system. If you're not familiar with that, I believe it's the 4th piece of the Top Speed Golf system, and that's going to be basically our compression line. To define it, we're looking at a line at impact that goes from your lead ankle to your lead hip to your lead shoulder. And we want that line to be slightly angled away from the target, and we want it to all be in a nice straight line. So if you're kind of in this area or you're in this area, you're kind of out of your compression line there. Ideally, it would be nice in a straight line there. Body would be opened up here. Lower body would be opened up, and you'd be slightly angled away from the target. Now with the driver, you can be a little bit more angled away. When I say slightly, I'm talking 2-4 degrees angled away. With an iron is a good place to be. But you'll see some tour players that are 5-10 degrees angled away with their compression line, and that's to promote an upward angle of attack. Now, if you are hitting down on the golf ball and hitting down into the turf and getting underneath the ball, that could be a possibility that your compression line is more vertical with the driver. You're coming in and you're more leaning toward the target or straight up and down. So I would look at that and work on trying to stay behind the ball and hitting up on the ball a little bit as you're coming through there to promote that upward angle of attack. It could be also that you're just teeing the ball way too high. It's hard for me to know exactly. And as far as tee height is concerned, I like, and I typically instruct students, half of the equator of the ball to be above the crown of the club, or even a little bit higher than that is good, as long as you have a nice upward angle of attack. If it's more than that, then you might be putting yourself in a position where you're leaving yourself not as much margin for error, and you're allowing the club to kind of sweep underneath the ball and get those pop-ups. But again, we all get the occasional pop-up. Even tour players, I've seen Clay hit a pop-up before, so it's not, I hit pop-ups sometimes. It's not something that never happens, something happens to everybody. But if it's something that's a regular occurrence with you, I'd be looking at your compression line and seeing if you're more in that right position, that more angled away position, instead of leaning toward the target or too vertical. And to get to the compression line course, click the house icon at the top of the screen. Scroll down when you get on the home page, and you'll see the compression line course and understand more what that is. So, or even look up videos on the website for hitting more up on the ball, some drills for working on that, launching your driver, and things of that nature. So hopefully that helps. And again, if you'd like me to take a look at your swing, join my unlimited swing review program. I don't have spots available right now, but join that waiting list, and I will get back to you as soon as I can when I get a spot available or when I'm able to take on more students. So thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So join me at that time tomorrow, and everybody have a good rest of your day.